Hello everyone, my name is Finn Linus, and today I'll be presenting on economic inequality in the United States through the lens of conflict theory. This sociological framework, originally developed by Karl Marx, helps us understand why the gap between the rich and poor keeps growing, not just due to accidents or bad luck, but because of deeper, systemic power imbalances built into our institutions. Over the next few slides, I'll explore how these inequalities persist and who benefits from them. Conflict theory. What is conflict theory? Conflict theory is a way of looking at society that sees it as a constant power struggle between different groups, mainly those with resources and those without. Karl Marx was one of the first to outline this idea. He argued that the elite control the means of production and use this control to exploit the working class. According to this theory, institutions like the government, education systems, and the media are not neutral. Instead, they're tools designed to keep the ruling class in power and maintain the status quo of inequality. This theory sets the foundation for analyzing economic inequality in the US. What's important to take away here is that inequality isn't accidental. It's designed and maintained by those in power. Modern conflict theorists. While Karl Marx laid the groundwork, modern sociologists have developed and refined his ideas to reflect contemporary society. Rolf Dahrendorf highlighted how bureaucracy systems limit people's upward mobility. These rules and procedures often seem neutral, but serve to reinforce class barriers. Randall Collins examined how access to education and politics contribute to maintaining elite status. He showed that those in power often use credentials, schooling, and political influence to protect their social positions. These theories remind us that inequality isn't always about wealth. It's about how institutions are set up to maintain dominance. Rising economic inequality. Let's look at some numbers. Economists Thomas Piketty and Emmanuel Saez analyzed over 100 years of income data in the US and found that since the 1970s, the top 1% of earners have doubled their share of national income, from about 10% to 20%. Meanwhile, working and middle class wages have stayed nearly the same, adjusted for inflation. At the time, the cost of basic necessities like rent, healthcare, and college tuition has skyrocketed. What this tells us is that the economy has been structured to benefit those already at the top, while the rest struggle to afford a basic standard of living. This issue is one that has developed over many years and will continue to worsen until the US people begin to stand against it. Inequality in education. Education is supposed to be the great equalizer, but in practice, it often reinforces inequality. Sociologist Sean Reardon found that the achievement gap between high and low-income students has grown since the 1980s. Wealthy children benefit from well-funded schools, private tutors, extracurricular activities, and family connections that translate into better job opportunities later in life. Meanwhile, low-income students attend schools that are underfunded, overcrowded, and lack basic resources. They face more obstacles to graduate and college access. This isn't just about test scores. It's about life chances and social mobility. Politics, power, and policy. Economic inequality isn't just a byproduct of market forces. It's shaped by political decisions. Political scientist Martin Gilens and Benjamin Page studied over 2,000 US policy outcomes and found that the economic elites and business interests had a strong influence, while ordinary citizens had almost none. Take the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act as an example. It disproportionately benefited the wealthy and large corporations, even though the majority of the public opposed it. This is a clear example of how money shapes politics and reinforces inequality. Conflict theory tells us that the political systems serve those in power, and research like this confirms it. Effects on society. So what are the consequences of this growing inequality? Researchers Richard Wilkinson and Kate Pickett found that countries with higher levels of economic inequality experience more social problems, including higher rates of mental illness, crime, obesity, and lower life expectancy. These aren't just problems for the poor. They affect society as a whole. People in unequal societies tend to trust each other less, feel less safe, and experience more stress. So even if you're not at an economic disadvantage, inequality still reduces your overall quality of life. Race and class inequality. Economic inequality is deeply tied to racial inequality. Sociologist Eduardo Bonilla Silva argues that racism isn't just about personal attitudes. It's structural. It's embedded. In systems like housing, education, and employment, it is so prominent. In the US, Black and Latino workers are more likely to hold low-wage jobs and are less likely to own homes or access wealth-building opportunities. They're often excluded from financial systems that help white families accumulate wealth, like favorable mortgage lending or inheritance. These systems have developed over hundreds of years and don't show any sign of letting up soon. Conflict theory shows how race and class are not separated struggles, but deeply interconnected. Here's a detailed map visualization showing the racial income gap among Black and white households across US states and major metro areas. This map truly highlights where differences are most pronounced. If you look at somewhere like Washington, D.C., Wisconsin, and Minnesota, ranking among the worst in the western states, showing smaller gaps. So areas where there are prominently more African Americans or Hispanic people, the gap is much wider. So, how do we fix this? Conflict theory suggests that we need to tackle the root cause of inequality by changing the systems that protect the wealthy. That includes tax reform so the richest pay their fair share, campaign finance to reduce the influence of money in politics, and increasing funding for public education. Although this sounds like a lot, it is something that could be done if the US people united together. We also need a stronger protection for workers, including better wages and job security. Over the last couple years, most jobs have lost the security and the wages have dropped. It's been very easy for employers to allow their employees to get paid far less. These aren't just policy tweaks. They're structural reforms aimed at leveling the playing field and giving everyone a fair shot. Conclusion. To wrap up, economic inequality in the US isn't an accident. It's built into the system. It's developed over hundreds of years. It is intertwined deeply into our roots as a country. Through conflict theory, we can see how power, wealth, and influence are concentrated and protected. The data shows us that inequality is rising, that it hurts everyone, and that it's connected to both class and race. If we want to build a more just society, we have to confront the structures that keep inequality in place. We must attack the roots of the issue. We must balance out the top 1% to the bottom 90. I hope this presentation has helped you see economic inequality in a new way. Thank you for listening.